Hey Moon lovers, this must be take like, I don't know, 57 or something. um, as promised, I am going to take you along with me on my first ever recording of my first episode on my podcast, All Things Moon, Lunar Wisdom for Everyday Life with Kelly Jones. So without further ado, I've put it off long enough. I'm going to press the record button and see what comes out. Wish me luck. Hey Moon lovers, welcome to the first episode of Lunar Wisdom for Everyday Life with myself, Kelly Jones. And in this first episode, I'll be telling you some of my story so you know how I ended up at this moment, why I'm sharing it with you, and what you can do to start living a more lunar inspired life. So, just before I came on, a little ritual I always do for myself is to give myself a moment to stop, soften, breathe, center myself, notice how I feel. And that is Strala Yoga training. I'm a Strala Yoga guide, and Strala Yoga is something that saves me day after day after day. So that's part of what I did before I came on here. And I also pulled an oracle card from the Rebecca Campbell Work Your Light Oracle deck. I figured that coming on here and sharing my wisdom with you means that I am working my light. So that's why I picked that deck. And inside the box it says you are the oracle. And we are all our own oracle. And the card that came out was Warrior Woman. If you weren't afraid, what would you do? Which is so appropriate. So appropriate. Because if I wasn't afraid, I'd be recording podcasts. I would have been recording podcasts for years. I would have a YouTube channel. But I have put that off and taken the time to understand myself instead of beating myself up. Is why do I put these things off? What is it that's in my own way? So learning to get out of my own way. And my study of astrology, I'm an astrologer in training at the moment. I'm training with Night Light Astrology with Adam Ellenbass. I'm kind of partway through the training, feeling a little overwhelmed with everything that we need to know. And we're just starting to read charts, just so we get into the real exciting stuff now. And I'm also a moonologer. I trained with Yasmin Boland, so I can do a year's moonology reading for you. But all of these things essentially, ultimately, have helped me to get to know myself and understand myself better as to why I do things, why I don't do things, why I can do things at certain times and not at others. So we're in Sagittarius season right now, and I am a Sagittarius rising. So it's a really good time for me to step out into an adventure, because Sagittarius is like to try new things. They love philosophy. They love the big picture of life. And I am a big picture person. I like to join the dots together and then alchemize the story into something that feels better. So that's really bringing all of the things that I love to do into one thing. And the biggest thing for me has been using the moon, learning about the moon and all the lunar cycles and how that reflects in my life, in the world that we see around us, for the collective. So a few years ago, I started to hold moon ceremonies in person. There were just a few of us in a circle in a little yoga studio. And then we went into lockdown and stuff, so I started holding them online, and I committed to holding a moon ceremony online every new moon and every full moon that it was possible for me to do that. And I have upheld that commitment. And it really, really has, as time has gone on, those who come regularly will agree with me that as it gets to that moon and all the research that I'm doing for what's likely to be happening around that time is already playing out and already showing itself in the collective outside in the world, but also in my own world, in our inner worlds. So where did it all start? Who am I? Who is Kelly? So as a little girl, I was very sensitive to atmospheres and energies, but we didn't understand all of that then. I didn't know about that then. My mum and dad didn't know about that. My mum was forever trying to find somewhere where she could leave me without me screaming the place down and wanting to run and hide behind my mum. And eventually she took me to a dance class, to a ballet class, and stood outside waiting for the screams, and they never came. And that was where my journey through dance and self-expression came. And I can remember one of my very first memories is of sitting in a circle with our legs out in front, with my little plimsolls on. I didn't even have any ballet shoes then. And with us doing good toes, naughty toes, which is pointing your toes and flexing them back. And I have got really, really bendy feet. And the teacher said, everyone look at Kelly's toes. And that was my very first experience of having something special and different about me. And still to this day, when I point my toes in a class, people always comment on my feet. But anyway, what that did was I started to always want to have something different to everybody else. And my mum would take me all the way to London to buy a pair of shoes just so that I had something that nobody else had. And I could never understand. I'd get very frustrated when people always seem to copy me. And so I would, throughout life, I've always been trying to do something different and other people copied me. And I'd get really irritated about that. Until as I've got older and I've started the self-love club, I started that quite a few years ago, and then started to study the moon and the stars much more in depth and started to learn about myself. I know that as a Cancerian, I am a cardinal sign. So Cancerian is a cardinal sign. Cardinal signs are leaders. I'm a Sagittarius rising. And Sagittarius like to adventure into something new, into the big picture, to join the dots together, philosophizing. So these things helped me to understand. These are very basic, very general things, but I'm trying to give you a picture of how starting to learn about my birth chart has helped me to understand myself and why I've done things, and realizing that I inspire people to try new things, to look at things in a different way, from a different perspective, from a broader, larger perspective. And when people tell me their story, I can always join the dots together for them from all the things that have happened and show them a much more brighter and a feel better story for them. So all of this has led me to this moment now of wanting to share my wisdom with you. And just going back a little bit again. So I entered life as a dancer. So I went to a full-time theatre school from the age of 13, which led me to theatre college. And that was my dream, was to be on stage and to be like Fame, the series. That changed my life. When I watched that, I now know that it is possible to manifest something if you want it enough. I saw that series and I wanted to go to a theatre school just like that, where the bell rang and you sat there in a little chair with your desk attached to your chair, and we went dancing in between lessons. And actually, part of our full-time school was 2 days a week was singing, dancing, acting, public speaking, theatre arts, and I was in my element. I never ever missed a day of school once I went to theatre school. Previous to that, at what I would call a normal state school, those sensitivities that I have of being an empathetic, highly sensitive person, I really struggled to be in such large groups of people. So going to a smaller private school, doing what I love to do, really changed my life. And that is one part of my life I would never change, except maybe if I could do it all again, I would start at that school younger. So jumping forwards to my career as a dancer, back in the 80s and the early 90s, to have a career as a dancer, you really needed to be 5'4" minimum. And I didn't grow taller than 5 foot and half an inch. So I really struggled to get work in the chorus line. So it was really whether I could, get a job as a main part in something, having to have, all areas that you could sing, you could act, you could dance, you had to stand out from the rest. And now I realise, at this older age of 53 years old, that I probably did stand out from the rest. But my confidence at that age, my sensitivities in that harsh world where you're being judged, it's competitive, there's bitchiness. I really just, went into my Cancerian shell and really didn't come out again for quite a long time, and really sabotaged that career. So I ended up, apart from waitressing, because you do a lot of that when you're auditioning for jobs, to earn some money, you end up as a waitress. So that gave me a lot of training in customer service and looking after people, something I'm really good at as a Cancerian. So from then it was like time to get a real job. So I entered into the world of fitness and management, and I trained when I was 21 to be a fitness instructor. I worked as a deputy manager in a health place, and that was really where I started my journey of into well-being. But I was always into something a little different. So I was always going to mind body spirit fairs with my mum, and on a constant journey to heal my skin, because my skin was something I believe now was a symptom of me wanting to be seen and not wanting to be seen. So being very conflicted between wanting to be out there and be noticed and to not be noticed. And why would that be a conflict? Whereas a sensitive person in a very bitchy, judgmental, competitive world, if you're really good at something, I learnt very young that if you're good at something, then someone won't like you for it and it will upset them. So it sent me on a long journey of this people-pleasing behaviour that it's taken me absolutely years, really, until now that I'm a little older in my postmenopausal crone age, to really accept all of those things without any regret and know that it was all part of my journey to help others who feel the same. So having bad skin, I was always looking for something to heal my skin, and that led me down many paths. So I trained to become, I was a reflexologist and a Reiki master. I've trained in lots of different modalities like hypnotherapy, neuro linguistic programming, EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, always exploring and researching myself as my own project of healing, all these things that got in the way of me being me. And eventually what happened is I ended up training to become a Pilates teacher. Pilates was something that I trained in at theatre college, and all of a sudden this thing came up that nobody else was doing. Funny that. And I started Pilates classes, and all of a sudden I found my little stage in something that I shone at. And I got really well known quite fast as being my unique selling point was that I tell stories to teach Pilates. And at the same time, I started yoga classes, which was something I did for myself. And part of me didn't want to become a yoga teacher because I wanted to keep that thing for myself as my pastime, as something I did to help me recover from teaching Pilates. And eventually I opened my own little studio, and over 16 years I grew it from a tiny studio into a big studio. And I always had yoga teachers with me. And eventually I realised that I wanted to teach yoga. But again, I sabotaged that because I felt as though somewhere inside me, I felt as though someone wasn't going to like me for it, because I'd put myself in this position of being the Pilates teacher and having lots of other yoga teachers. And, you know, incredibly, it can be quite a judgmental world, yoga, even though yoga as a lifestyle is supposed to be leading you to a place of non-judgment, of letting go of ego. And I was getting the point of that, but I felt surrounded by ego and judgment. And so therefore I kept myself small. And so, you know, the reason I tell you any of this is to, I'm sure that there's somebody resonating out here where you felt as though you weren't going to be liked, or you were going to upset somebody. So to avoid that conflict, you kept yourself playing the smaller part. So I feel as though my teaching Pilates was me being the plain Jane sister of the yoga me. Eventually, I found Strala Yoga, and it was actually 7 years ago, because I've just seen a memory on Facebook today of being in New York for the first time, taking my first certification course with Tara Stiles. And I discovered Strala Yoga, and Strala Yoga, the whole thing about it is not about how good at it you are. It's all around how it makes you feel. How do I feel when I'm doing this? It takes the rules out. It's slightly rebellious that way. We don't need to learn Sanskrit. I definitely didn't speak Sanskrit in a former life. I found it very difficult to learn other languages, so I could make up my own names for exercises if I wish. And the whole point of it is to soften you, to simplify things, to come from a place of ease and calm, and to simply notice how you feel. So combining that with my love of astrology and all things moon, the Cancerian moon child, the Sagittarius rising, and, oh, not to forget, my moon sign is Virgo. So I love to analyze emotions, my own emotions. So you can see that my birth chart was destined for me to be doing what I'm doing right now. So I feel like that's enough about me for now. I would like to know about you. There is a Q&A box at the bottom of this episode, And I shall also switch on the ability for you to leave me a voice message. So you can either leave me a little voice message with any questions that you have, or you can write in the Q&A box anything you'd like to ask me. So my next episode is going to be an Ask Kelly episode of anything that you might want to know about me or about the moon and how it could possibly help you in your life. I hold online moon ceremonies every 2 weeks, every new moon, every full moon. And I have also just started cacao yoga and the moon classes. They are an in-person class in my local area in near Chelmsford in Essex in the UK. And I will also be recording some of those classes to put online for you as well. So whatever it is that you're interested in, whether it be doing some Strala yoga that helps you to notice how you feel, learning about the cycles of the moon to help you get to know yourself better and help you to organize your life. And also, I will be having some guests on here who will mostly be people that I know who have been following the moon as well and how they use it in their lives and how that can help you. And any suggestions are welcome. And I'm going to kind of call it a day there and sign off, and hope that this has given you some kind of food for thought and some kind of inspiration, and may have, sparked something inside of you that wakes you up to living a more moon inspired life. And I hope this has served you in some way. And I can't wait to be back and sharing again with you soon. Bye for now. I did it. What do you think? Not perfect, but nothing ever is when you just got to do it sometimes. So let me know. I feel like this was probably long enough for a first episode, but let me know your thoughts, your feedback. Constructive criticism is welcome, insults aren't. And yep, I hope that this has entertained you for a little while, and I will look forward to sharing with you all again soon. I think the next moon ceremony is a new moon in Capricorn. Oh no, it's a full moon in Cancer. I don't know. I'm going to double check. I should know really, shouldn't I? I'll let you all know soon, and I'll pop the dates up for the next moon ceremony. Bye for now.